Hello, FloodGate family. Thank you for joining us on our next part of this series. In this one, we're going to talk about leadership in MedTech. During this year, there's been a lot of change. There's been a lot of challenge, and that nothing shows gaps in leadership like those scenarios. And that's why I was lucky enough to have Mike Mogul, good friend, exceptional leader, one of the best leaders I've ever had, agreed to join us here to give us a little insight in leadership in MedTech. And for you, those of you who don't know, Mike Mogul's had an incredible career. He started with, built his career through Stryker, ran Stryker Germany, was the group president for Stryker Orthopedics, then became CEO of DJO Global for several years, and is now the president of Healthpoint Capital. Mike, thank you so much for joining us.
Joe, it's great to be here with you. Thank you.
Awesome. So, I obviously know the DJO days, but tell me a little bit what you're doing now at Healthpoint Capital.
Sure. So after 30 years in this space in musculoskeletal healthcare, decided to actually go invest. I'd seen so many small companies that had great technology, but needed help, needed capital, needed support to get out to a size and maturity to where they could get to whatever end they wanted to. Oftentimes in this space now, and is strategic that needs innovation and wants to acquire it. So we've raised a fund. We've actively invested in 3 companies now. We'll continue to invest in more companies in this small musculoskeletal space where I've been for a long time. We bring capital, but frankly, if capital is all somebody needs, it's not us. We have a huge network of surgeons, of distributors, of hospitals, and strong close contacts with the strategics, the eventual buyers, as we kind of put this thing together. And if all of that helps small companies get out to the exit they want, that's where we want to be. I'm every day on the phone with guys leading and girls leading companies that have innovative technology and want to see it grow and need help getting there. And that's frankly the most fun part of the business.
That's awesome. Seeing that new technology and setting that plan, something you've always done well. So, hey, curious, you've had a great career success. What do you attribute that to?
Well, yeah, I mean, everyone wants to say working hard and working smart, and that's of course true, but I think that's just table stakes. Yeah. And I think I've seen lots of different people, get their different ways. For me, it's constantly trying to, we always hear, these are the challenges in my company. And for me, it's always, these are the challenges I see and I want to go tackle them. And if you raise your hand in your company, and so you're not only complaining about the problems, but you want to go tackle them, even if that means strange jobs, sideways moves to other places to get it done. That's what really makes you invaluable in the company. Yeah. Another one is to know the customer. I mean, everybody thinks knowing the customer is the sales rep's job, and of course it is. But frankly, no one in the company has a job unless we sell something. And so whether you're an engineer, whether you're in product development, whether you're in marketing, whether you're in manufacturing, if you don't know the customer and what the customer needs, then you really have a hard time leading your part of the organization to get there and make sure you're providing what the customer needs, whether it's great customer service, great products, quality. And so I think knowing the customer is key. And what we see over and over again in turbulent times, the people who know the customers end up doing the best and certainly are able to continue to contribute value. I think we've seen over time that people move around company to company more and more. And that's just the facet of where things are today. That's not going to change. I think what I see though is some people spend a lot of time thinking about what they're going to do next, which means they're not spending as much time thinking about what they're doing now. And my rule has always been you spend 364 days a year focused doing what you do now really well. And you can have one day a year where you decide if you're in the right course and the right track, if you want to go do something else. But if you're spending 20% of your day every day thinking about what I'm going to do next or what I don't like about what I'm doing, you're probably not doing what you're doing well. That's and I guess last for me, I've always been focused on making everyone around me successful, and figured if I made everybody around me successful, made them a lot of money, helped their careers develop, they were going to do the same thing for me. And at least thus far, that's worked.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, I mean, taking that initiative, what I heard you raising your hand, solving problems, understanding the customer, because what else is a business besides a tool to solve people's problems? So if you don't understand what that is, you're not going to be better at it, right? Being focused on what you do, being the best, being excellent at what you do now are some of the key attributes that you did. And I think some of those are probably for aspiring managers would be some of that same advice you'd probably give to an aspiring manager. Is there anything else that, come to the forefront for the people on this call? They're like, I want to get into leadership. What else would you tell them?
Well, here's an obvious one that people don't think about as much, and obviously important talking to you about it is pick the right company.
Yeah, true.
Because it makes a big difference. I mean, if you're in a large company, I joined Stryker, we were $150 million in revenue. When I left, we were, I think, $6.5 billion in revenue.
Yeah.
Now, no matter how many things you do well or do wrong, if your company is growing at that kind of pace, there's constant leadership opportunities. And because you're constantly hiring people at a percentage of your growth, and Stryker grew 20% for year after year after year. So you're hiring people at least at 10% or more. And if you're hiring all those people, they need managers. And then those managers need managers. So if you're in a big growth company that's growing and you want to lead, you're going to get lots of opportunities to do so. And if you're in a company that's growing very slowly, even if it's a good company, it's just there aren't going to be nearly as many opportunities like that to lead.
Yeah.
And so
they need the people, right? The people are there. It's set. Yeah. It's not as dynamic.
Yeah. And so, I mean, you spend so much time talking to people who are looking at opportunities and people and companies that are looking to hire. I'd say, I'd be looking for a place that's looking to hire a lot of people, that's demonstrating great growth. I spend a lot of my time on the smaller end of things now with small companies, and being in a fast-moving small company is also really exciting. You generally get a lot more responsibility a lot quicker. You can make a big impact. And so I lots of examples of leaders who spent time in small companies and were able to parlay that into big leadership roles in the big companies because they'd done so much. The challenge there is small companies
came along with the acquisition into that role, right? Which happens
exactly.
as well. Yeah.
But now they've done so much more than someone who's been buttonholed in a little position in one company for a long time. The challenge is that small companies oftentimes don't have cash.
Yeah.
And in nature, if you walk around the academy or a big orthopedic show or medical device show, on the smaller booths, half those companies at least are cash flow negative. So they're burning cash every month. And that may be by intention. They're trying to grow very quickly because that's where the value is, but they're burning cash. And most of them don't have more than a couple months of cash on hand. And you just really want to make sure you're in a company that actually has access to cash. And if they're a fast-growing, high-flying one that's cash flow negative for a long time, you just need to make sure they do have that access. Otherwise, it'll be a roller coaster. If we have cash, we don't have cash. We have cash, we don't have cash. Or it'll be constantly laying people off when we don't have cash. Can't make payroll. So I think that's super important. So coming back to pick the right company, and make sure you're talking to people who can help you do that. I mean, Joe, you talk to how many companies?
Well, I think that's a good point. That's your feet. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's exactly. We talk to hundreds of different companies, hundreds of different people. So yeah, exactly. So you mentioned a little bit the Stryker growth, right? So I'm curious. I mean, you were that, 100 million to 5 billion. I mean, that rapid growth. What was the lessons that you took away from that time and that time with John Brown, who's obviously the icon?
Yeah, I think before I dive into this, I just say one more thing for managers who are developing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the big hard leap that people make is if I'm the leader, and I have just a team, I may be in the middle of helping them get what they need to get done, and I feel like I'm part of the team to get things done, and that's natural and oftentimes really good. When I start managing managers, then all of a sudden, if I get in the middle of what everybody does, I'm not doing the right thing. And I think the shift that leaders need to make, that certainly has been, at least from my perspective, is really to be the spotlight, not the doer. Once you have once you have a larger organization, if you put a spotlight on the things that are important, you talked about innovation before. We started putting we put innovation forefront at DJL when we were running meetings every single week on our entire product development portfolio with everybody involved, because innovation had come to a standstill at DJL and we needed to get it moving. And by putting a spotlight on innovation, putting a spotlight on the people that were going to deliver new products, we accelerated new product development radically in 5 years there. And I have lots of examples of, in former times at Stryker when we had, challenges with quality challenges, is putting a spotlight on the people that will get this done, putting a spotlight on the problems that get things done. And that's your job. If you can get that spotlight on the people and the talent, then they make great things happen. And I think that's the shift that people have to make from just managing a team to managing something larger.
Yeah, and you have seen that mistake where when they go to that next level, they want to get involved and still help, but that help can be distracting. And now their team has two chiefs. Who do they listen to, right? And so it can be more of a detractor. But setting that spotlight and focus and agenda, that's I saw you personally do that several times. So.
Yeah, we've lived through some challenges together.
Oh yes, we have. I've seen that overall. So, yeah. Well, hey, I'll circle back to the questions on lessons. I think you probably hit on a couple of them already, but curious. It's such an exciting time for such a pivotal company in the industry. Love to hear your insights.
Yeah, man, I've been privileged to work for John Brown, who really is one of the legends in the industry. Other people at Stryker like Cy Johnson and Ron Lawson, that were also keys to running huge parts of the company to success. And then later at DJO and my board, guys like Mike Zafarowski, who had run massive companies and were my chairman, and lots of the people at Blackstone, who are genius at what they do. And I think the key for all of them is, as opposed to me coming out with lessons, I'd come back with that you can learn from all of them. And the key to success in any career, I think, is learning from the people you work with and you work for, and constantly taking notes. I'm always thinking about, why is this person asking me this? Why are they torturing me with the same question over and over again? What can I take away from the management style? And I think the other key component is very few people are lucky enough to have managers that they love their entire career. But in the end, you learn just as much from bad managers, and bad managers is the wrong word, but managers that you didn't love working for, than you do good ones. And what I have found is time has changed my view of different managers a lot over time, as I really learned what made so many of them great. And I think about the things that I've taken on from the different leaders that I've had, and things that I'd never do again. And I think that constantly taking notes of why different managers do what they do, or leaders do what they do, and how you might do it differently, is a key facet. And so I actually ran a course at Stryker in the Stryker Leadership Academy and our DJO Leadership Academy on my lessons that I learned from leaders that I've worked for. And I think the key there is not as much just the lessons, but that you actually are constantly paying attention.
Right. You're reflective on it. And kind of that Voltaire quote, every man's my superior in some way. Of that, I'll learn from him. What is it? What is that thing? And can you internalize it, learn from it, even knowing their intentions? That's good.
Very much so.
Yeah. So I forgot to mention, you can comment in your questions. I'm sure things are sparking, questions you have for Mike. Please put them in the comments. We'll be able to discuss them at the end of this. So if you haven't already done so, please do so. So something that's near and dear to my heart, and I know you drilled in. Ron Lawson, you mentioned, drilled in. Mike Zafarowski drilled in. It's all about great talent, right? What's that team? Whether there's a 9-box or whatever else, we did that evaluation and finding great talent. Tell me, how'd you find, evaluate, develop top talent? What nuggets of gold do you have?
Well, you need a big funnel. I mean, in the end, you're not, like anything in life, if you don't start out with a lot of people coming in, you're not going to figure who the great ones are. And you need partners that are really good at seeing talent and being creative to think how people might fit. Frankly, and I say this not just because we're sitting talking together, you need people like you who have done the job, have been terrific leaders, sales leaders and general managers, and are great evaluators of talent. And, in the end, any hiring manager just can't do it all themselves. And so whether it's their human resources, but more often, somebody who's bringing in talent like you can really help filter out people that aren't going to fit. Take a creative eye to someone who might be asymmetric to your normal candidate, and help a hiring manager really hire well, or at least have a set of 4 to 5 people that might fit the role. Because in the end, I know we all want to be great developers and leaders, but just like professional sports, starting out with a great athlete,
that makes you look a lot better out of the game, right? Yeah. because that broken play, they could still run it to the touchdown, right? So that's, and there's a lot of broken plays in business, so makes sense.
No,
go ahead.
Yeah, so you need great partners helping you find the really talented people. I think the one thing from other thing from hiring is I know a couple of people, and I've been doing this for a long time. I know a couple of people that are natural interviewers that can actually sit in front of somebody and figure out if they'll be awesome at their job. But that couple people was out of thousands and thousands of managers that I've seen interview. Interviewing is a very difficult skill set. And I think if you're relying on your interviewing skills to figure out whether someone can do the job or not, you're not going to win enough. I think beyond having great partners to help find the talent, for me, referencing is the single key thing that is underdone, oftentimes farmed out to somebody else, and is the key responsibility of the hiring manager to really talk to the people who know this person and really build up a profile of that person from those conversations. And the hiring manager is able to get far better information from previous bosses than HR is or somebody else is. And I think that's a key component to see how, past performance when it comes to talent, unlike stocks, is the best indicator of future performance.
Yeah, totally agree. It's the things sometimes not said that are said that you wouldn't pick up on a report, right?
On the development side, I mean, it's obviously a huge topic of how to develop people who work for you. So I think of it, I think one key component is that top talent wants on-the-job training, they want outsized responsibilities, and they want big goals, and they want big rewards. And if you're offering that, you're going to hire top talent.
Right.
And if you hire the top talent and you give them those big responsibilities and rewards and goals, then you'll engage them, develop them, and they'll perform well. And that way, I think over my entire career at Stryker, that was one of the neat things is we grew so fast that people constantly got these opportunities that were bigger than their current experience set, that they were able to develop into and learn so much. And I think you specifically, you were one of our top sales leaders at DJO, and we stuck you in as the general manager in a turnaround situation. And I love how you performed there. But it was a great example of taking top talent and stretching them.
Yeah, trust me. It was a what am I doing here? Okay, how do I figure this out? But you figure it out, right? You rise to the challenge, and it's exciting for the right people. To your point. Yeah.
And that's what top talent wants to do. So if you're offering those opportunities, that's where they want to go.
Yeah, that makes great suggestions there. So, we're talking about the industry a little bit. We're talking about careers, and over time, is anything really changed? Or is it the same, or has it changed?
I think two major components. One, there are definitely fewer big companies. So if you're on the big company track, they're bigger, denser, and than there were before, and that's changed. And the corollary to that, which is interesting. I mean, if you talk to kids today, they're not talking about going to work for a big company. They're all talking about doing startups. Yeah, they're all talking about everything. Everyone wants to run their own business. Everybody sees people making zillions of dollars doing their own little startups or businesses or YouTube channel, whatever it is. And that leads to a lot of talented people who would be in industry who want to go do that. So they get attracted to small companies, get attracted to doing their own. They move around a lot more. Their expectations are much higher. This is a challenge for large companies as well, that want to they want to keep people moving down a career path. And I think there's lots of answers for what large companies can do to keep people very engaged and as excited, even people who are thinking about starting their own company. But I think that I think the base of people who are in this industry today and will be in this industry think more and more about the excitement of smaller, faster, bigger, and that will continue to morph the industry over time. Yeah,
it's a good point. I mean, we see that all the time. We talk to some people that have great roles in large companies, and we've got something where they can move fast and maybe make an impact. And even though sometimes it's less comp or less that short term, they're excited, right? So definitely see that all day. Last question for you. I mean, we're exiting an interesting time, after an unprecedented year. Any insights, on where you see the market as we exit here and where the opportunities might be?
It's obviously been challenging from a volume perspective, especially for elective procedures. And it's coming back now, and that's all wonderful. I think what's challenging is the hospitals who for better or for worse, mostly see themselves at odds with the medtech industry. Saw COVID, for all its challenges, as a wonderful way to restrict access. They keep reps out of the hospital. They're keeping reps out of doctors' offices. The VAC committees that approve products have come to a standstill, where it takes incredible amounts of effort to get a new product approved. They've made life very difficult. They don't want reps in the operating room. They're looking at new technology to hopefully get the rep out of the operating room. And all of these things will be challenges for the industry. There are answers to these challenges. And it's just going to take a great offense in the hands of both big companies and small companies to deal with this. But there's no question that they see this as an opportunity to get more control over something they felt like they had less control of, which is new products coming into the hospital. And then doctors, who oftentimes have been the partners of the medtech industry, also the ones doing elective surgeries really had a tough year, and they're very focused on surgery, and less focused right now on trying new things. So just more challenge for companies. Exactly.
Interesting insight. So, hey, I want to get a few questions, so we have kind of a little time from the FloodGate family here. So let's see what we got. Let's see. Some great thanks here from Ernie Hahn, which I think Jeff Solomon's great seeing you guys. Let's see if we got actually some questions here. A lot of chatter back and forth. This looks like a question here. So this is from Rick Gerhardt. Be curious how Mike's team at Stryker and DJ decided on their strategic direction.
In the end, it comes back when I got back to Stryker Orthopedics from Europe. At that point in time, in place a huge strategic planning process with people who only did that job, and then they spent a lot of time thinking about it. What I didn't see was enough people spending time in the field with customers, understanding actually what the needs of customers were, and having those people help direct where we need to go. And so it's a constant planning process. I think it's a mistake stopping and starting on 5-year increments like some companies do. But I think what's key is to make sure that people who are doing the planning are the people who actually know what's happening. And that you don't have a separate organization doing this. Otherwise, it can really take you down other paths.
Yeah, it makes sense. Bringing in those consultants that know what you should do. You should know too. Back to your point, right? You should know your customer, and if you know your customer, you know those problems. It's easier to set that strategy from earlier. So
yeah, I mean, there are great places for consultants when you're trying to do something you haven't done before. But if you need consultants to tell you what your customers need, you've already identified your first problem.
Yeah. Here's another one from Thomas Kraft. What would you do differently to boost your personal development with today's experience?
So, I think it's, we all work very hard. So you have to pick where and when. Things, platforms like this really give you the opportunity to see and learn. And there's a massive access to information that we just didn't have before. My 12-year-old's asking, will they always go to the same school, when in theory on Zoom he could go to school with teachers anywhere on the planet. Yeah, right. And who knows what school is going to be like in the future. But the same thing's true for all of us. We have access now to content. I get on these Zoom conferences and roundtables with people, like-minded people, and people who are in utterly different spaces often. And I think you can pull a lot from those experiences and bring them in. And that's really going to be one of the great benefits of COVID, was this access to people all over the planet readily via Zoom or other platforms.
And people comfortable with it and ready to do it and embracing it. I agree. And I kind of, along with that, Casey Patrick, with COVID in mind, how do you recommend motivating your team to now embrace that virtual selling world? So thoughts?
We've seen this over and over again, where things changed a lot, and then all of a sudden the business used to be back in the 80s and 90s. And if whoever had the best golf meeting and ski meeting and spent enough time taking their customers to do crazy things, got the business. And then when all the rules came in that changed that, and then all of a sudden it was product features and relationship, but not necessarily in service, but not necessarily golf, the reps had to adjust. This is going to be an adjustment too, and not everybody's going to be able to do it. But I think that virtual selling is definitely going to happen, but face-to-face is still going to be there. But certainly for some period of time, I think it's going to be, the big focus of the hospital is going to be to have fewer people in the operating room who aren't doing something important. So the key will be, if you want to be in the operating room, you better be doing something important.
You got to focus on adding some more value than just being there, right?
Yes.
Makes sense. Good insight. Well, I think I got one more question here. The best advice to get someone in leadership here from Jacqueline.
I think it's that offering to dive in for the ugliest of problems. This is that raising the hand thing. So I mean, I first came to me when I worked in a division. They were setting up a new division at Stryker, and everyone. And this was for called Blood Technologies, that was going to have blood reprocessing equipment. And they asked every manager to give their best rep to this new division so we could start it off well. And I sat in a meeting, and every single manager named the rep they thought was most applicable across the country. And having been in the company long enough, it was the worst. Every single person was giving their worst person. They were happy to give up. But that was perfect for this new division. And I raised my hand and said, well, why don't we just kill this thing now? This is never going to work. We got to have talent in here if this thing's going to happen. That's how I got my first job, my next job. And,
they're like, great. Well, now you run it, right?
Exactly. And so that's, I think that's every company has lots of challenges. They have lots of people who see the challenges. They have far fewer people who are actually willing to do something about it.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Great suggestion, Mike. Can't thank you enough. I think, you can look at the comments on this. There's a lot of people really appreciating the comments, the insight, and the education. And to your point, how do you learn? How do you get the tools and develop themselves? And it's a great platform. So thanks so much for taking the time. And
Joe,
go ahead.
No, I really appreciate it. I love what you do. You're a great sphere of talent, so you're in a great place. And I'm happy to be here with you.
Awesome. And guys, if you like what you've seen here, and we'll have more of this content and different things, please follow us on LinkedIn if you're not already. Thanks so much. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks very much.